Great to be here, everybody. Thank you. I have a real short presentation for you and then want to open it up to questions because I'm sure you've got a lot about what's hiring looking like in this environment and what should I do about it. Any specific experiences that you're having and how to navigate through the networking, application, and interviewing process during this kind of time. And that's the focus of my presentation. Now, it's mostly around a survey that we took through the Austin Recruiter Network. And on that survey, we asked our membership what kind of status they're in right now. Are they merely pipelining candidates and some people call it collecting resumes, which is kind of a very neutral kind of situation. Are they in a total hiring freeze, just not doing anything with their recruiting? Are they even laying off people right now? But more interestingly, how many of our membership are actually still recruiting and still hiring right now? Perhaps they desperately need talent because they're in a critical employment situation, and they're like an Amazon who's delivering packages every day today, or they're in the healthcare fields where they're putting people out on the front line. And so we've got some data to share about that. I'm going to share my screen now, so I'll be taking over the screen here in a second. So hold on as I move toward that. Okay, should be seeing my main screen, my main presentation. And the screen you should be seeing right now is hiring in Austin during COVID-19.
Yep, that's what we're seeing.
Good, excellent. So again, I'm sure you know, if you've been watching the news and you've been kind of reading up on things, that U.S. jobless claims are soaring right now. The unemployment rolls have skyrocketed over 3 million as COVID-19 layoffs has hit. So you're not alone. Texas is not getting hit as bad as some states, but the situation is pretty bad just globally, as you know. So you're not alone if you're in an emotional situation where you feel like you're isolated, you've been kind of picked on or singled out. That does not appear to be the situation, that this is pretty broad. And so we want to have good outlets of folks that you can talk to, networks like Job Seekers Network that you can lean on to get good resources and really just good emotional support during this time. Freezes and layoffs are more predominant around hospitality, retail, manufacturing, and many tech companies around the country. Many of these companies are freezing their hiring really just in anticipation of the kind of significant drop they're going to see in their sales and in their revenue. And their executives are concerned about extending their payroll and extending their expenses when their revenue is not going to support that. And of course, that ends up affecting their bottom line and their stock price and all of the other things that they're concerned about. So they're freezing their hiring just as a preemptive strike, really. That is really sad from my perspective. I am much more excited about the kinds of companies that I work with, and you'll see some of them in a moment, that are still hiring through the midst of this, because they're confident in their product, they're confident in their service, they know that they've got new products that they need to build or new services that they're developing, and they need talent to do that. So again, you'll see a list of that in just a moment. Now, so we're here in the Austin area. Among the Austin Recruiter Network participants, we're only seeing about 9% of those indicating that they're letting people go or laying off talent right now. 9% is still significant, so that is troubling news, but it's less than many companies, perhaps like in California right now, or even in New York. We're seeing quite a few more companies going through layoffs and letting folks go. This is local data, so these are recruiters and talent acquisition leaders of local Austin companies, or people who hire in the local market, who are giving this data. Around 16% of them, though, are saying that they're in a total hiring freeze right now. They're not taking resumes, they're not looking at their applicant tracking systems, they're not interviewing candidates either by phone or any other way. Now, so interestingly, I was expecting that more of our participants would at least acknowledge that they're going to continue forward with some type of digital or phone, video interviewing or phone interviewing. And that response was really surprisingly low. We are continuing to collect data on this, so we'll update this regularly. And what I'm doing is just sending this each week, hopefully, to the job clubs in the area that are partners with us. So Job Seeker Network will get an update from us weekly, because we're sure that this data will change over time. More than one of the folks in the network that responded to the survey have already pinged me and said, things have already changed since I responded to the survey. And so I said, okay, we'll log back in and update your data. And we're happy to keep track of that. So we'll update the Job Seeker Network on a regular basis.
How many people responded so far, Dan?
It's not a high number, actually. We've got, but more than 50 companies have responded, or representatives from 50 different companies have responded by now. The number is increasing every day, because as we kind of put the data out, more people say, oh yeah, I need to get my information in there as well. So it's dynamic, and the audience is growing. Interestingly, that many of these companies are saying they're still hiring, and they're hiring on what they call critical roles. Critical roles are different for each kind of company. They might be perhaps sales roles in certain companies, because they're looking to drive revenue during this time. If they can increase their revenue, then they'll go back and they'll hire engineers and project managers. And so they may consider sales roles to be critical. In other companies, it's the engineering roles, or it's the product development roles that are the most important, because they're still building their product, they're still getting things out to the marketplace. So again, that differs from company to company. And 16% of our participants were reporting that they're still in regular hiring mode, and even 6% saying we still need talent. Now, when I say 6%, and you've got, really around 50 or so companies represented, that's still just a small handful of companies that are saying, hey, we desperately need talent. I can tell you Amazon was one of those, though. They're a regular participant with the group, and they're hiring like mad. Home Depot was another group that was reporting that they're still hiring. And that's not just, I just want to clarify on that, for Amazon and for Home Depot, that's not just warehouse workers and retail folks. They're still hiring engineering staff. They're still hiring project managers, sales, customer service, etc. We did invite our membership to let us know if they were specifically still hiring and wanted us to share their information. So I will share this with with Craig, and he can put it out on the website. You guys can utilize this to kind of build maybe a target list. If any of these companies are in the kind of marketplace or have the kinds of jobs that you would be attracted to, these are companies that are still hiring, and you have direct links to their career page, and in many cases an email address where you can contact a real human being and try to get some conversation going about your qualifications.
This is really helpful, Dan. I appreciate it.
This is a nice diverse list too. I was really pleased with the diversity. We've got government, real estate, financial companies, civil engineering. It's not just all tech companies, which a lot of times you kind of expect in the Austin marketplace. But I do want to point out a couple of the tech companies that are in here, like Q2 Software, quite a few really interesting, meaty roles that they're hiring on. Certain Affinity is a new partner that is a phenomenal partner that is in the game development space. They build games like shoot, I'm trying to think of some of the really popular ones, but I mean, they partner with Sony and Pixar and develop games for those kinds of companies. You see National Instruments at the top. They are going strong. Engineering, project management, program management, operations, M&A. They've got a real meaty role for mergers and acquisitions, if anybody in this group has experience in that realm. I know there was one in here that did have some sales roles. That was Epicor Software, still hiring sales positions. Let's see. I know that there are a couple of that have not responded yet that I know have told me that they are still hiring. Now that was maybe a week ago or two. So like I said, the situation is changing very quickly in the marketplace on who's hiring and who's not. I'm trying to leave this slide open for just a little while so that you guys can grab immediate contact information and take action on this. But again, I'll share this with Craig and he can put it out on the job seekers website. I'll pause here for a second. Does anyone have any specific questions about some of the data that we've shown, some of these different companies? I'll open the chat bar so I can see your questions. Chat bar.
Nothing yet, Dan. We've answered all those questions. Does the star in the workbook refer to situation, task, action, or result?
Thanks for the question. That's a nice setup, actually. Let me stick a pin in that. I'm going to come to it here in a second. Thanks, Camille. Let's see. I see a question from Sarah. I recently applied for a writing position with a writers organization. I imagine media like that would continue hiring at this time. They said they specifically are trying to fill the position by May. Okay, so that's, information to share with everyone else here, I guess. Let me move forward in the presentation. I was just going to share with you about, well, just quickly, this is some of the data about who's responding to the Austin Recruiter Network survey. 87% of the respondents so far are all hiring inside Austin, but just as a fair warning, some of the different jobs, for example, there's a company called Surveying and Mapping, and also I think Roscoe Property Management had a number of different jobs that were outside the Austin marketplace, maybe traveling or just, that relocation might be involved. So you'll have to check that out to make sure that it's something that you can do. Let's see. All right. So I wanted to share with you a couple of different things around, during this time where companies are in what we call digital sourcing or AI kind of activities. What should you do during this time? It's more important than ever that you're online, that your LinkedIn and Facebook profiles are updated, that you're over on the right side, that your LinkedIn profile and even your Facebook information matches your resume data as much as possible, that your title, your current title, where you are, what company you were most recently at, the dates and the time frames that you were at different companies, the skills that you have, what your focus is as a professional, that is all up to date. More than ever, those companies that are still hiring, or at least sourcing and pipelining, as we call it, pipelining talent for the future, they're searching the web. They're looking at LinkedIn profiles and Facebook profiles. They may not reach out to you right now. They may be just kind of grabbing a link to your LinkedIn profile and saving it in a database so that they can follow up with you as soon as they are told that their hiring freeze is lifted. So you want to be very findable right now. Keep your profile open. Then you'll want to make sure that you're developing your list of target companies that you're tracking. Right now, that list probably changes. You need to go back to your original target list and make sure that the companies that you're spending time networking with have a possibility of hiring in the near future. And so just go back to their corporate websites, connect with professionals that work in those companies, and ask, how soon will you be hiring again? What's the situation within the company, et cetera. And then you can make some critical decisions about who's on your target list. Stay connected, especially with the talent that are in the companies that are still hiring. And so as you see lists like I've shared of key companies that are still moving forward, like National Instruments, et cetera, Amazon should be on this list. They just didn't respond because they're so busy hiring folks. But that you are networking with professionals in those organizations, spending time getting to know them, and networking with those companies. The other thing is, if you are, if you're sending out more and more applications to different roles, or you're sending out lots of different emails to different companies, keep track. Just build yourself in your own spreadsheet and track who you're reaching out to, what companies you're applying to, what jobs you're applying to. Keep track of all those clicks and applications and emails, because it may be a week or two, it may be more before you get a follow-up and get an interview. And the last thing you want to have happen is that the recruiter calls you from a company and they say, I'd like to talk to you about your application for this role at our company, and you've forgotten what job it was that you applied to at that company, or you forget who your key contact was that was referring you to that company. You want to have that data handy so that when those calls come in, you can reference back to those things. The other thing about kind of moving forward in this kind of an environment is that as you are updating the keywords and skills and so forth on your resume and on your LinkedIn profile, that you are specifically targeting roles that are as precise of a match as possible to your skills and experience. It's a difficult time when the market is flush with talent. It's a difficult time to pivot. It's a difficult time to say, give me a chance at this new job. I've never done it before, but I'm a really, really great person and you're going to really love working with me. Because, I'm sorry to say this, but because there are probably 3 other people who are specifically experienced in that skill set who are also looking for work right now. So now is the kind of time when you really focus in on jobs and opportunities that are a precise match to your background and experience, where you can leverage your most critical skills and your most key strengths. The other thing, last bit that I wanted to share, is that you've got to really monitor all your different accounts. If you've got, say, an Indeed account where you've got an Indeed resume online, and you might get notifications in the Indeed system, or especially on LinkedIn, folks. Your InMail in LinkedIn could be loading up right now, and if you're not monitoring it during the day and checking to see if any recruiters are responding or sending you messages, then you could miss real critical opportunities to follow up on. So make sure that you're monitoring not just your main email inbox, but also your LinkedIn InMail, your Indeed box, et cetera, et cetera. Messages could come from lots of different places. Back to Camille's question, this is the resource that Craig mentioned earlier, the Star Career Workbook. Like Craig said, the Star Career Workbook is a workbook. Get out your pencil. You know, you can make copies of different pages in here, but please don't send copies to other folks. Let them go out and buy a book for themselves. This is copyrighted material, but you might want to make a blank copy and then work through a worksheet, and then the next time you come back to it, some of your thoughts or ideas may change, and so you can rework this workbook. But it's there are tools to help you refine your message, your resume, your marketing, your target list, your networking plans, your interview preparations, and on and on. I also talk about different alternative avenues that you can pursue, like opening a franchise business, or setting up your own business, or a lot of different things that you might try during this kind of time frame. All bets are off, I say. Try everything that you possibly can. In the Star Career Workbook, yes, the name STAR originally came from that concept of situation, task, action, etc. However, the key difference in my approach is around the T in STAR, first and foremost, and that is that I talk about the trials that you've gone through. And so when I tell you to develop your story and your pitch about who you are and what makes you different as a candidate, I want you to paint the picture of the challenges that you have gone through, because the grit that you have shown, the perseverance that you have demonstrated in your past will be the secret sauce for your next employer. When you were faced with an under budgeted project, when the rest of your team essentially dropped everything, but you pushed through and you got the work done, or when you renegotiated a deal with a client that everyone else thought had walked away from the table. Those are the kinds of stories that I want you to paint for your future employers. And through those kinds of stories, you'll show that that you have a clear differentiation from other candidates. So the Star Career Workbook and the STAR methodology really helps you with that, helps you develop what I call your STAR stories, which really revolve a lot around understanding that key challenge that you've overcome. I use the STAR acronym for a lot of other things in the workbook, helping you identify what you need to be doing and how you are networking, what your overall profile should look like as an active candidate in this marketplace. And I use the STAR acronym to paint those pictures over and over again. So thanks for that question, Camille. Kind of set me up to promote my book. That's not why I always just drop in on the Job Seeker Network. I wanted to try to provide some pretty good data here. This is some contact information about the Austin Recruiter Network. If you are a HR professional or a recruiter in the Austin area, so much encourage you to join our Facebook group or our LinkedIn group, or both. Both would be better, and continue to monitor what's going on within the Austin Recruiter Network. If you're not a recruiter or an HR professional, then the administrators for the Facebook and the LinkedIn groups won't let you in. I apologize for that. But the group is for recruiters and HR professionals to be able to share what's going on, what they're working on, best practices, etc. On each Friday of each week, the Austin Recruiter Network on the Facebook group does a candidate sharing. And so they'll take, every recruiter will say, this is a candidate that I really wanted my hiring manager to select this week and they didn't. So I'm sharing this person with the group. And so you could be one of those candidates, and your name could be shared among the Austin Recruiter Network group simply by being, getting through the process with a great company, and you find out that the recruiter that you're working with is in the Austin Recruiter Network, and you just say, well, since I'm not going to get through on an interview, would you share my resume with other recruiters in the Austin area? And they will do that, whether they're an active member of our group or not. But if they are an active member of our group, they're more likely to do that because we encourage that. So just as a tip then, let me re-emphasize that. If you're interviewing with a company and you don't make it through to the final round, ask the recruiter with that company to share your resume with their network. Hey, since I didn't make it through to the final round, would you share my resume with your network? And they will.